Today we're going to be looking at freeing up the neck, combined with a little bit of forward head carriage stuff. So, there you go, good boy. And we're going to start seated. So, seated, ideally on a nice firm chair, and sitting up really nice and tall. So we want the spine to be lengthened. And I've realised that I've done this movement that we're about to do every single time in these classes because it's so important. So we're going to reach up. So try and touch the ceiling, lifting, rib cage off of the hips, holding both arms up, lifting up, shoulders are up around the ears, ribs are flaring a little bit, and then lower the arms, lower the eye line, but feel like you've got this lovely length in the spine. We basically spend most of our time, once we've got up out of bed, compressing the spine. So we want to decompress the spine, we want to lift up, we want to have it lengthened as much as possible. And so just as simple as that. And then thinking about the length, the extra length in the neck. So hopefully you can see nice and clearly my neck here. My shoulders are quite level. If you're able to do this sort of work in front of a mirror, really handy, just to notice whether you've got one shoulder higher than the other. We're all tend to be quite wonky, as you know, and that's a principle of something that I work on a lot of the time. We're one-handed, so we're stronger on one side than the other side. We're all a little bit wonky. So today is just going to try and address those imbalances. So let's get some blood flow to the muscles around the neck because we're going to do some great stretches today. So double shoulder rolls. And when I talk about the shoulder roll, you probably can't see brilliantly with this top I'm wearing actually, but think of like there's a sticker there. Look at my hand. In fact, that's quite good. It's the movement of my hand, and I'm just cupping my hand around my shoulder girdle, if you like. Sort of if I had a short sleeve t-shirt on, where the sleeve of the t-shirt would be. So on both sides. So your goal is to go up towards the ears, back as far as you can, down. And I'm allowing a little bit of rib cage to move around. But because I'm on a fairly hard seat, well, very hard seat on this chair, there's no padding whatsoever, I'm very aware of my sit bones. So I'm lifting out of the sit bones. And then I've changed direction. In class, I rarely do this movement. Only because we're trying to avoid a rounded upper back, but for today we just want to get as much blood flow as possible. So it's the biggest movement that you can all the way around. And then let's take some singles, same sort of thing. It feels a bit weird with my hands sliding up and down my legs, so maybe just let your hands drop by the side, but same thing, although so I'm trying to get the same amount of movement with each shoulder, but we're doing one at a time, and then there's a very subtle, just twist in the waist a little bit. And all the while, sitting up, lengthening that spine, decompressing the spine, and then let's go forward. So in the old days, I used to call these the John Waynes. The John Waynes of my Pilates class. But that was the old days, it doesn't really apply so much anymore. Okay, let's take some shoulder shrugs. So lift the shoulders up around the ears, draw the shoulders down. As you draw them down, maybe think about our breathing. Let's take a breath in as we lift the shoulders up, and a breath out as you draw down. But as you draw down, lengthen up. I'm almost lifting myself off of the seat. I'm trying to lift up so much. So drawing the shoulders up around the ears, drawing the shoulders down. And as I started to say, I'm not sure whether I actually finished the conversation off, but as I started to say earlier, if you're in front of a mirror when you're doing this sort of work, check that everything's nice and level. There'll be a difference in strength and maybe mobility, but try and keep everything nice and level. Good, so that's just a straight up and down. Now let's take, I'm going to turn sideways, take the shoulders forwards and back, and again it's this shoulder girdle. So when we're standing or seated, when we're in our plumb line, when we've got our good postural line, that the earlobe, the line straight down from your earlobe, falls just in front of your shoulder, just across in front of that seam on the top of your shoulder. And so when we're standing in good posture, generally we're a little bit rounded forwards. If I place my hand there, so a little bit tiny forwards. If we're in good posture and we're thinking about it and we're engaging the muscles in the back, the shoulder tips me back a little bit. But now I'm asking you to go even further back. So we're going back, centre, forwards, centre, back, centre, forwards, centre. So pin them back, relax in the centre but have a sense of breadth across the collarbone and push them forwards. Push them forwards but don't lift up. We've just done the lifting up. You just want to push forward, so you're rounding, and try not to get your arms too much involved if you can. We're trying to isolate the muscles around the shoulder blades, around the top and the back of the neck, because that's where we want the blood flow to go to. Brilliant. Okay, so placing the hands at the back of the head, interlace your fingers, take your hands behind your head. In fact, I'm just going to show you, this is what we're going to do. We're going to push your head into your hands. So from the side, we're going to apply pressure backwards. But before we do that, actually, sorry, I should have changed that. So I'm going to go sideways again. So in order to, so what we're doing now is we're applying, pushing the head back into your hands. You've created like a bracket with your arms, which means that you won't move anywhere else. So you can't really lift the chin. You won't be tucking the chin in because you'll be coming back on a straight line. You won't be opening and closing the arms or anything, or changing anything. All you're literally going to do is apply pressure. Imagine if you had you could actually do this standing with a cushion against the wall and you're pushing your head back into the wall. But it's this sense of lifting and pushing where I've put my hair up. So on this sort of top corner of your head, I quite often talk about the tissue box of your torso. Let's think about the face as a tissue box, especially if your face is quite long, like mine, so not too rounded, that would be more of a square. But let's think of a rectangle. So we've got that length there and the corners here. So think of this back top corner. You want to lift and lengthen and send that back top corner to the wall, where the wall and the ceiling meets. So maybe just try a little zigzag to get there. So lift the chin very slightly. Now lengthen the back of the head and neck up towards that ceiling, where the ceiling and the wall meet. Now lift the chin again, and now lengthen a tiny, tiny bit more. And then the action that you're going to be doing when you've got your head in your hands is, if you just take your finger to your chin, push back. So your jaw moves back on a straight line, and that's the pressure that you're applying. At the moment, I can go quite a way. When you've got your arms there, you won't be able to do that. So now we're interlacing the fingers, we're bringing the elbows forwards a little bit. So we don't want the shoulders to lift up round here, so let's just draw the shoulders down again. And when you draw, and do that a couple of times actually, lift the shoulders up round the ears, draw down, and you'll feel a sensation around your shoulder blades in your back, and also it wraps around into your armpit here. And that's a really important movement. That means that we've got the shoulder blades down, we're not letting that all hunch up, not letting all these muscles join in with whatever we're trying to do with the head. And we're strengthening the muscles around here so that we can hold that good upper body posture. So hands are interlaced, elbows are up to the side. We've drawn the shoulders down, and for me it feels a little bit like I've put my shoulder blades into gear. And then bring your elbows forward slightly so they're in your periphery vision. If you just turn your eyes from side to side, you can see them, but they're not all the way forwards. You're not looking at horse blinkers. Your elbows are forwards in your periphery vision. And then apply pressure. So I'm going to take this front hand away, but imagine it's still there. I'm trying to do that if I exaggerate it, but I can't do that because of the position of my arms. So I'm just switching on. And hopefully you'll feel some activation in the muscles at the back of your neck, maybe top of your shoulders, and just hold it for a count of 10 and then have a little relax. So I'm switched on now, but you can't really tell much difference between this, and I've switched off, I've relaxed. Can't really tell too much difference between the two movements. Switched on, and about 5 sets of 10. So we're just switching on those muscles, building the stamina. And there's so many other ways that you could also do this movement, but I like this position of the arms because, as I say, it means that you can't go anywhere except just switch on the pressure, the tension. It's an isometric contraction. You're not moving anywhere, you're not physically moving in space, but you're activating the muscles. If you've got your elbows wide, it's very tempting. You're going to bend potentially somewhere else in the body. You might lift the chin. There's no movement anywhere else, just this switching on. Thinking of that top corner going up to the wall and the ceiling. Good, head, neck and up and back. Brilliant. Okay, so let's look at some stretches while we're seated. So keep that lovely length in the spine all the way through. So let's just go basic. So you could, if you wanted to, and if you're in an appropriately sized seat, if you like, hang on to the bottom of the chair. So I'm just about, I can reach there quite happily. Make sure you're sitting up really, really tall. Maybe close your eyes. And then the first movement that we're going to do, so look to see what the movement is first, maybe. Is to turn your head from side to side. Now go really nice and slowly. We're looking to stretch, and I don't know about you, but pretty much every day. So always in my classes I do the shoulder rolls to get the blood flow to the whole neck and upper back area. But the moment I start to do any neck stretches, there's always a little bit of tightness. It's never particularly free. If it's horrible pain, then don't do it, but if it's just a little bit stiff on one side, turn to one side, stay there and hold it, and it will ease off. Good, so that's our first movement, so turning from side to side. The other thing to think about there is that when you turn, so if I go sideways, my head is completely upright, my spine is upright, I'm turning and I'm not tilting. So if coming back to the tissue box, I like that analogy that I've just made up, your chin and your forehead stay at the same level. So what I mean by that is quite often when we turn to the side, there's a bit of a tilt going on, but I want you to know the difference. I want to differentiate between turning, rotating and tilting. It's very different, so tilting or leaning. So now we're going to take a tilt and a lean. And this is a good idea to hang on to the chair here. Leaning over to one side. So you can think of this in two ways. You can think of the ear going towards the shoulder or the collarbone, but I'd actually prefer it if you thought about the top ear lifting up towards the ceiling so that you get the length in the neck as well, as opposed to just crunching down. And if you saw then my face scrunched up, if you do something that's really not good for your neck, your face will scrunch up, everything will go a bit, because that's the body's automatic reaction to stopping you from injuring yourself. Or just, causing a stress in your neck that you don't need. So tilting from side to side. Really making sure, so if you're not hanging on, the tendency might be, especially, I'm hugely exaggerating this, but the tendency might be to lift the shoulders and tilt the shoulders, to let the shoulders go with the head. The whole idea is this: we want to isolate the head going on its own. Good, so the last movement is to drop the chin onto the chest, and I'm just going to turn sideways. So thinking about that lifting up, make sure you're really lifting up off of the seat, no collapsing whatsoever. So you're working quite hard with your back muscles anyway. Notice that the only thing I'm allowing to lower is my head, and it's the weight of your head. Just letting the chin drop down to the chest. You might be tempted to allow that upper back to collapse a little bit. Try not to. Think of like your collarbone going across from here as the sort of cut-off point. So, but also really let that head hang. So quite often when I do this in class, I see this. I see people looking down, but I've still got tension. I'm still actually holding my neck there. There, that's gone now. So all the way down, and then when you're down there with your chin on your chest, you're going to keep the chin there, keep the head relaxed, turn from side to side. It's like I'm drawing, I feel like I'm drawing a semicircle or a straight line, if you like, with my chin from side to side. Really be aware of your upright posture on the chair. There is my first rhyme of the class today. Good. And then lifting up. Great. So three three movements: turning, tilting, and tucking the chin in. So let's go back to turning side to side and do what I asked you not to do. So I'm going to turn to the side, and then you're going to tilt and tilt the other way. And again, this is quite tight for me. So you've turned to the side and you're tilting. 3 or 4. When you've had enough, upright the head again, come back to the centre. So I'm going to face this way to do the other side. So turning all the way, now I can hang on to the chair a little bit easier. So top of your forehead and your chin are on the same plane, they haven't changed, until I start to add the tilt. Tilt or lean from side to side, having rotated fully. There's a lot going on there, not easy for me to say. So when you've had enough, upright the head, come back to the centre. Great job. We are going to take we're going to take the tilt, so we rotated and then we tilted, or we turned and then we tilted that time. Now we're going to tilt and now we're going to rotate. So you've taken your ear towards your shoulder or the other ear up towards the ceiling, but you're facing forwards, you're still looking really squarely at the screen. Now go on a diagonal line with your chin. Turn your head so that your chin comes towards this shoulder, and now turn your head so that your chin, your eye line is looking up towards the opposite corner in the room, where the ceiling and the wall meet. So drawing a diagonal line but on a tilt. Good, and again when you want to come back, when you've had enough, face forwards, come back to the sort of neutral position. I can see, so you can see how tight my neck is. I've pitched over quite a way there. Yeah, get myself straight, and then come upright. And then over to the other side. So just nice and gently with this work. Tilt to the other side, try and keep your shoulders level, Mandy especially. And then we're going on the opposite diagonal corner. So you're going towards your shoulder, and then keep that tilt, keep that lean over up towards the ceiling corner. Or on a diagonal line to the opposite corner. Yeah, so you could say that chin is going to the back corner where the floor and the wall meet, and then it's going up towards the ceiling and the wall, where the ceiling and the wall meet. Assuming, obviously, that you're in a square room, which I pretty much am. If not, think of it like that. And I'm just having a double check for my shoulders not joining in. Come back when you've had enough to just the plain tilt and lift up. Great, just give those shoulders a little roll if that's all feeling a little bit strong. Brilliant. One last one. We're going to take the chin tuck, but now I want you to, once you've done the chin tuck, think of lengthening one side of your neck. So chin tucks onto your chest, but you're not
not forcing it down, you're just letting that upper back hang. And then imagine the tissue box again, shortening on one side, lengthening on the other side. Come back to the centre. This isn't a very big movement. Shortening on one side, back to the centre. Shortening, lengthening. So I'm imagining that I'm creating a curve on the longer side. I'm probably not creating any curve at all. But if you could see my head from above, that's what I've been looking for. A longer curve on this longer side, a shorter curve on the other side. And again, without lifting the head up to do it, try and let it relax. Come back to the centre and lift up. Fantastic. Hopefully that all feels really good. Let's come down onto all fours. Doesn't time fly when you are enjoying yourself with this work? Okay, so we're down onto all fours. Basically because, and again this comes back to class, when you're on all fours and you're keeping the head lifted so it's in line, if I go completely sideways, if you're keeping it lifted and in line as opposed to here, so this position is this position when we're standing, when we're sitting. It's that horrible forward head carriage. It's that rounded upper back. Whereas, and that's just me allowing my head to drop down against gravity. Whereas when the head is lifted as much as it possibly can be, so this top corner of my tissue box is lifting up towards the ceiling, so the neck is long. The back of the head and neck have come in line with the top of the shoulders, the back of the shoulders, the collarbone area, the back of the ribs. And then, if I don't change anything, I'm now standing, sitting, whatever, in good posture. Shape of the spine is all there in its natural curves. So, let's take that position. I'm going to come slightly on an angle. And let's take our shoulder rolls. This is really quite challenging, but the whole time try and keep that head lifted. So in fact, let's take shoulder shrugs first of all. So shoulder shrugs, in this position, you take the shoulders forwards towards your ears, you take them back towards your hips. Forwards towards your ears, back towards your hips. Forwards and back. So when we were seated, it was up and down. Now it's forwards and back towards your hips. Forwards and back. Great, come back to a neutral position in the middle. Now allow your rib cage to drop down between your arms and then lift up. Rib cage drops down and you lift up. So from the side, rib cage drops down. It's like my shoulder blades close behind and close the gap that the rib cage has left, if you like, as it's dropped down. Arms stay straight. I'm not squeezing my shoulder blades together. I'm also not, when I come up, I'm not going past the neutral position. I'm just trying to get to that neutral position. Now, let's go around in a square to start with. So forwards with the shoulders towards the ears. Let the rib cage drop down. Slide the shoulders back towards the hips and lift the rib cage up. Forwards, up, round and back. So these are our backward shoulder rolls. Much harder in this position. But all of this wonderful endurance that you're getting in that neck. And let's change direction if you can. So you're going back towards the hips. Allow the rib cage to drop down. Up and over, forwards towards your ears, and then you lift the rib cage up. Think of four corners with your shoulder tip. So there is the movement around the rib cage. Can't remember which way we're going. Oh, we're going this way. Forwards and back. Okay, in the middle, in a neutral position. So all the time we're holding this head in this perfect position. Let's try, in fact no, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to save that for a class another day. Let's just take those stretches, but you're working against gravity now. So stretches, movements, movements, neck exercises, strengthening the neck and all planes of movement. So from this neutral, beautiful neutral position, turn your head from side to side. Keep the back of the head and neck lifted, so don't let it drop down. If you're just letting it dangle, that's not the same. Turn and turn. Try and get your chin to go over towards your shoulder, your collarbone. There's no tilting just yet. In fact, maybe if I go this way, that would make more sense. There and there. Good. So we'll come back to the middle. So now we're going to turn. Now you're going to tilt and drop down. So you've turned. Now you're tilting or leaning in that turn. This is really quite strong. Always coming back to your neutral position and neutral in the middle when you want to change sides. Turn first of all and now tilt, lift and drop. So think of your ears. This is a tough one. Brilliant. Okay, well done. Give those shoulders a little bit of a roll. I can't believe where the time goes with these classes. Let's finish off lying on your tummy. So open up the legs to hip width apart. We're going to place the hand on top of hand, but have your hands like that. So not too far apart, not too high. Just nice flat hands. So my fingertips are touching the opposite hand's wrists. And then draw the shoulders down in your back. Have your hands nicely in front of you. Just remove any rings if this is going to get in the way. And rest your forehead on your hands. And then all I would like you to do from here is lift your forehead off the tiniest amount and then let it relax down again. So lift the forehead off. You're just bringing, I say the tiniest amount because all you're doing is lengthening out the back of the neck and lifting the head so that it's in line. It's now into that plumb line. Again, if we were standing, that's where we'd be. This is what we were doing when we were pushing the head into the hands. And this is a similar muscle activation or using similar muscles, but now we're working against gravity, and rather than it being an isometric contraction of the muscles, it's isotonic. So we're lifting, we're adding movement to it, and we're holding. And gravity is the training factor here, if you like, but also just your awareness. So what I wouldn't want to see is you lifting the chin and just crunching the back of the neck, because that's not what we're after, or lifting everything up at the same time. It really isn't a very big lift. So then just lift and hold if you can. Maybe open out the hands a little bit more. Lift and hold there, and then again, turning to the side. Maybe rest the head down. That actually can be quite uncomfortable. Let it relax. Let the weight of your head help you do that stretch. Lifting. Come back to the centre. Turn to the other side. Let the weight of your head relax down. Lifting. Come back to the centre. One more time each side. Turn. Relax. Lift. Back to centre. One more. Turn to the side. Relax the head down. Relax the shoulders. Breathe. Lift the head. Come back to the centre. Hands underneath your shoulders. Pushing the hips all the way back. So let's have your toes together. Let's have your knees nice and wide. Stretch the arms out forwards and just take a slightly mad, as I call it, sway from side to side. So if you can't get those hips all the way back on your heels, come onto your elbows and the same sort of thing. Sway from side to side. If you can, you could maybe have your hips a little bit higher, but push the chest down and then turn the head from side to side. Lead with your nose and now reverse it. Lead with the back of the head and lead with the back of the head. Lead with the back of the head. Get all ranges of movement, all ranges of motion. Get it moving. Get everything moving all the way. All sorts of different angles. Get lots of the muscles involved. Hopefully that feels great now. I don't know about you, but it feels good for me. This is all about me. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope to see you again. Take care.